I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell politicians to give up the rooms. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth.
God, it's me. Can you hear my plea? Feeling like I'm lost in this world, can't you see? Demons creeping in, trying to take control of me. But I'm just trying to find the light, trying to break free. I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. But why you keep forgetting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feeling like I'm on a leash. Can't find no peace. Living in hell, can't you hear my plea? I'm suffocating, can't you see? Why you let these false prophets roam free? While the well-run suffer, can't you see? I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Why you keep targeting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feel like I'm on a leash, can't find no peace.
Hardest battles, strongest soldiers, greatest burden, broadest shoulders, pushing up just like these boulders. See conflict like it's water, so this mercy, take my chalice, seeking grace through all this malice. All of these salty motherfuckers could give up.
Politics and sinners, they all the same. Got me stuck in this endless game. But I won't give up, won't play the role. Gotta do what's best
for my soul.
I'm not perfect, God. Neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell these politicians to give up the room. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth. Living wild but truthfully free. God keep on watching over me. Take my pleas and
Good morning. You know, I always start this off with independent music. And this morning I got for you, which I pretty much had all week, Too Filthy Ricky, a little Peso and Lil Ju. So I'll be right back right after this. That was Too Filthy Ricky featuring Lil Jew and Peso. If I Die. The first thing that I wanted to talk about this morning uh, was about the Minneapolis commissioner being denied again. Not only it's not the first time, it's the second time, and I think you're probably going to see that with Brian O'Hara as well. Whatever the council can do, because we know they have a socialist majority, uh, whatever you want to call it. So we understand that there's going to be some kind of pushback when it comes to the public safety people. That should already be expected. But let me get into this video and show you, like, to be honest, because Minnesota's in a weird spot right now. We're like in a very, very weird place when it comes to our politics, when it comes to just being out in the streets. It's actually, uh, especially if you're paying attention to politics, right? Because politics is, they're talking about the fraud, they're talking about, you know, gun control, all types of things to be able to control people, I feel like. And we're not making any headway on the fraud. We still see it happening. You know, people want to push back about, Zion Baptist Church or, even the other church, but it's like, come on now. You guys have all seen this. Like, this is, and here's the crazy thing. I was going through the lawyer, William Walker, and he ain't no better himself. Look at his criminal cases. That nigga is a fraudulent as a motherfucker. Look at his court cases. And I do get it. Due process. We are awarded. That's what we're supposed to get. But what are we supposed to believe? If something keeps on happening over and over and over again, isn't that insanity? Isn't that the definition of crazy? So how do you expect anything different when it comes to the nonprofit organizations when you're already dealing with people? This is why I don't want to get involved, because if people do want to talk about my past, yeah, I do have a past, right? I wasn't perfect. I'm nowhere near perfect, right? I'm a work in progress. But I can tell you right now is that the people that I call out have not. They have not changed. They are still scamming and being fraudulent. Just because, here's the thing that's crazy to me, and I really do. This is how you can tell a lot of people aren't from Minnesota, right? Especially when it comes to Brian Heron, who was a city councilor, was arrested for bribery, but yet he has contracts with the state, he's got contracts with the city, and it's like, really? And then you have a deacon in Marquise Armstrong, where if you look at his junior, the man who has his name, he's terrorized New York. I mean, not New York, North Minneapolis, terrorized it. So it's like, what are we actually standing up for? I totally, like, I really don't get it. Like, are we standing up for what's right? Because I can tell you right now is that God don't like ugly. And this is the reason why I separated myself from, like, especially Zion Baptist Church, because there's a lot of fraudulent shit going on. And it's crazy to me that you have people, that even the lady that came out and speak about Zion Baptist, she's under investigation by the BCA. Like, come on, how stupid are you motherfuckers? Like, I really don't get that shit. And it's like, no matter how much they try to tell us that it's a conspiracy theory, it's not true, there's no fraud, that's not the truth. And even when it's time to hold them accountable, we don't do it. We don't try to hold them accountable. So I want to show you, like, my first story is about the Minneapolis uh, Public Safety Commissioner, Todd Barnette, and how he was denied once yet again. You know, what's crazy to me, and I really feel like the problem is that let's see. So here it is. This is about a city that keeps talking about reimagining public safety, but can't even agree on who should lead it. You got politicians playing musical chairs with leadership while people out here just want consistency, stability, and safety. I think that's what really people really need to look at. It's like they don't even know what public safety is anymore. Everybody has a different opinion on it. Everybody has a different perspective. And I feel like that's because we all have came from different places. We've all came from different backgrounds. We have different perspectives, different experiences. So of course the outlook is always going to look different when it comes from various ideologies of people. Because we this is the one thing that I can very much guarantee and agree on in America is that most individuals don't even a lot of people don't agree. They don't see the same politically. They can be in the same parties, but there's a lot of things that people don't agree on or they disagree with. Um, you know what I'm saying? So like getting into this next story, it's about a St. Paul police officer uh who has broken back into breaks into Target. I mean, I don't think it's Target, it's Cub Foods, whatever, and steals. Oh, it is Cub Foods and steals. You know what I'm saying from their loss prevention. And how are we not realizing that all police? I'm not saying that are bad, but it's like when it's time to hold people accountable, it always happens afterwards. It does never happen um, to prevent anything because when it's time to do anything, just like even with the fraud, it's already, I'm not going to say it's too late, but billions of dollars have already been wasted. We'll never see that money back ever again. We're never going to be, and that's what I don't really understand when it comes to people is like all this fraud went on, but you don't want to help repay because I'll tell you like this all the money that was fraudulently wasted on trips to London, nice cars, vacations, boob jobs, BBLs. How does that help the community? How? It doesn't. There is nowhere in that ideology or that frame of mind that is even about taking care of the community because all it is to make people make sure that on the outside looking in, you see everything is on the up and up. But in all reality, it's not like that because once you look at the shit under a microscope, you actually see what it's what it's really about. And it's not about the people. Look at all this money these organizations have got. Doesn't matter if it's the Minneapolis Foundation or even some of these churches. You have executive directors, pastors, deacons who make hundreds of thousands of dollars in so-called impoverished areas, but they don't live in those areas. They live in Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, Maple Grove, Chanhassen, Shakopee. They don't stay over north. They don't stay in Minneapolis because they want to make sure that their future generations are getting far away from that, getting away from that so-called street life. That's why I look at a lot of these people, especially when it comes to the kids of like say Jerry McAfee or even Al Flowers. Like I can't do nothing help but laugh because these guys are silver spoon babies. They didn't grow up poor. They didn't grow up suffering. They didn't grow up traumatized. These niggas had a silver spoon, and still can't do right. And still, they've had every opportunity to get out of the street life, to get away from it. They've had those opportunities. They didn't use them like they were supposed to. They didn't take those advantages that they had against other people in like North Minneapolis. No, they didn't take advantage of that because I'm gonna tell you what it is. You can move a nigga out the hood, but you can't change them behaviors, and that's what I noticed when I moved down to Rochester, Minnesota. You could take me out of that area, but you couldn't take my behaviors because my behaviors were in a bigger city. And Rochester, which was smaller, wasn't ready for that. And now, as you see it, they're still not ready for it or whatever, but it's happening regardless. And I think people need to wake up and see that. Mm, dang. Mm, that's crazy. So we paid the officer, and then you say Adams. It makes me wonder if he's not related to the Adams over north, where a lot of them are police officers. One of them is even North High's football coach. Uh, so it does make me, wonder if that is part of that family or whatever. But it just shows you that when it's time to do the right thing, most people won't. They look for a other way. They look for an easier way to get it, and other than steal. That's the crazy thing that I really can't understand is how do you change, and that's where I really have my little daily battles of thinking or uh things like that. And I say that is because for the longest time, I would say from like 20, like after George Floyd until like August or October of that year, um I learned a lot. I seen people and I seen the shit for what it really was. And a lot of people in Minnesota don't believe that. And it's really crazy to me of like what more do you need to see, right? And I've been thinking about this for like the last couple days because Minnesota is in a like a weird place. We're like one I feel like tragedy from the state being in turmoil. And I say that um because I want to talk about this right before I get into the my little last story or whatever, because I want to talk about how Bloomington is making politicians, I don't know what to fucking call it, security force, whatever. Uh, but I wanted to talk about Lisa DeMuth. And one of the things that I really can't understand are so what I'm going to talk about is her daughter, Shalisa. And earlier this year, I think it was in like January, uh, Newsweek interviewed her. And I thought it was kind of interesting because she left a remark on her mom's Facebook page, right? So when family speaks, what internal dissent reveals about political identity, accountability, and public trust? In today's political climate, credibility isn't just built on speeches, party labels, or viral moments. It's tested by consistency, character, and the people closest to you. That's why moments of public disagreement within families, especially politically visible ones, tend to hit differently. They cut through the noise. Take the situation involving Lisa DeMuth and her daughter Shalisa DeMuth. When a family member publicly challenges your narrative or your political posture, it raises questions that go beyond partisan talking points. It forces observers to ask what's real and what's rebranded. Political evolution or political convenience. Let's be clear, people can evolve, political shifts happen, individuals move from one ideology to another based on life experience, new information, or changing priorities. That's not inherently a problem. The issue comes when that shift feels like growth and more like positioning. When critics point out that someone wasn't always conservative, the real concern isn't about the past affiliation, it's about whether the current stance is rooted in principle or opportunism. Voters aren't just evaluating whether you stand today, they're asking whether your values are stable or if they move with the political winds. And when that skepticism is echoed from inside your own household, it doesn't just stay a private disagreement, it becomes part of the public record. The question of authenticity in political spaces. There's also a broader conversation happening here about authenticity, especially among public figures who position themselves as truth tellers or ideological converts. In recent years, both major parties have highlighted individuals who walked away from the other side. For Republicans, that often includes former Democrats or activists who now criticize movements like Black Lives Matter. These stories are powerful. They reinforce a narrative that people are waking up and rejecting what they once believed. But here's where people start raising eyebrows. When those conversions come with media deals, speaking circuits, or monetized platforms, critics begin to question the motive. Is it about conviction or is it about capitalizing on controversy? That doesn't mean every voice is disingenuous, but it does mean the audience is paying closer attention than ever before. The role of family voices and public accountability. When a daughter publicly pushes back on her mother's political identity or messaging, it introduces a layer of accountability that no opponent or journalist can replicate. Family members have a front row seat to the private version of a public figure, the values, the conversations, the contradictions. So when they speak out, people tend to listen differently. Not because family members are automatically right, but because their perspective challenges the carefully curated image that often defines modern politics. It also highlights something. uncomfortable but necessary public figures don't get to separate their message from their lived reality. If you present yourself as a champion of certain values, people will look for consistency, not just in your record, but in your relationships and history. A broader reflection on political trust. Zooming out, the situation taps into a larger issue facing both parties of growing distrust of political figures who appear to reinvent themselves without clear accountability. Voters across the spectrum are asking tougher questions. What do you actually believe? When did you believe it? And why should we trust that it won't change again when it's convenient? This isn't about attacking individuals. It's about raising the standard. Because at the end of the day, communities, especially Black communities, aren't looking for symbolic representation or viral personalities. They're looking for leadership grounded in consistency, responsibility, and real world impact. Um, where was that? My mouse don't want to work either. Final thought. Moments like this aren't just one politician or one family disagreement. They're about a deeper tension in modern politics, the gap between branding and belief. In a time where everyone has a platform, the real question isn't who speaks the loudest, it's who can stand on what they say when it actually gets tested. Because when the people closest to you start asking questions, the rest of the public is going to do the same. And I've been said that. People always say, well, what about your family? They say, yeah, they're gonna because they don't know this new Chads. I'm not around them like that. So how are they gonna know the new me? Because I have chose to cut people off. And I do feel like it's the same way in a lot of families here in Minnesota. You see it with uh I think her name was Paige, the ones that were charged. Well, they have a whole nother daughter who spoke out against the family and say they were in the wrong. You don't see that enough. So when I looked at, Shalisa, because I'll tell you, she left a comment. I think this is the one, right? It says, meanwhile, well, hold on, let me go back and read it, right? So Minnesota House Republicans are hiding a gun violence protection bill that passed the Senate earlier this week because they don't care about the safety of children in Minnesota. Now, the Speaker of the House, this is her daughter. Meanwhile, their children are school shooting survivors. I really do. This is on Threads, right? So all the way back in January of this year, at the end of the month, they came out with a story, Newsweek did, is that Minnesota Speaker's daughter unpublicly calling out mom on Facebook. So, like, to be honest, like, when are we gonna be realizing that things that are done in the dark will always see the light? It might take time. It might actually take some time, but man, I just like how much more do people need to have things put in their face, and that's not even the way that it is. That's the crazy part for me is like, and I'm going to show you this. These aren't made up. These are things that she's put out of herself. And I don't understand why Republicans don't look at this. And this makes me really feel like they are part of the problem. They're not a solution. They are part of the problem. And I think that is the biggest misconception, that they're not, when they actually are. And that's because people aren't looking at the bigger picture. They're not looking at that. They're looking at something small that they feel is unrelated, or it's not even, doesn't really matter, but that's actually not really the case. So I want to get into Bloomington Police Chief announces executive protection unit. And I did find this kind of funny. But we actually, after Melissa Hortman and Mark Hortman and the dog, and then the Hoffmans being shot, I really did believe that there would be some police departments in Minnesota that would give a little extra protection to our legislators and elected officials. So seeing this come out of Bloomington, and I don't know Booker personally, but looking at his history, this doesn't shock me. I mean, Booker is somebody that is wants to test people's limits. He does things that I don't agree with, but he gets results. Do I agree with everything he says? No. Even when I went to Ron Edwards, I never met Ron in person. But looking at, I definitely don't disagree with him much. But when it came to Booker, if people knew about the lawsuit that L. Flowers and Booker Hodges filed against the city of Minneapolis and Don Samuels, then you would understand, like, okay, Booker doing what he's supposed to be doing because he's testing the limits of not only like government, but what we look at every day, because this is something that is unprecedented, like it the first of its kind. And it doesn't shock me that it was Booker that's the one that did it. Um, hold on. Hold on. Really? Right, that's start over. Uh, stop sharing. I be hating that shit when it does that. All right, let's see if this get it.
Before I get started, I'll just briefly, we had a double shooting here on May 4th involving some juveniles. We've made several arrests in that case, and in the near future, we should have some additional information for folks. You don't get to come here and shoot people and expect that we're not going to arrest you and lock you up, but hopefully we'll have some additional information on that in the coming days. First, thank you all for coming, and we're here today to discuss our new unit. We are the first police department in the state to have such a unit that has the capabilities of what I'm going to discuss today. But first, I just want to start off with how we got here. June 14th, 2025, I started getting calls around 3:50, 4 o'clock in the morning that a legislator had been killed, and it was Speaker Hortman. I'll never forget this day because my birthday is June 14th. At that point, for me, we had to start to think about what can we do to ensure that we are protecting those who decide to serve. And then in September, we all seen what happened to Mr. Kirk, goes to an event, and he's assassinated there also. So after that, came up with this idea to put together this executive protection unit. And this executive protection unit recently completed their training with the United States Secret Service and FBI and some other partners. This unit will allow us to provide security for these types of events and for elected officials should the need arise. The unit will be able to do threat assessments, which is a lot what takes place now. I realize what I mean by threat assessments, right? You can't, when people start making threats against elected officials, let me be the first to say, right, there's a bunch of idiots, buffoons, nincompoops, you name it in government, right? But there's also nincompoops, buffoons, and everybody else in society because that's where these people come from. But despite that fact, we shouldn't have, you don't get the right to say, to threaten these people's lives and their families when they've stepped up to serve. No one deserves that. And unfortunately, what we've seen recently, especially with the assassination attempts on the President of the United States, is these threats have to be taken seriously now. It isn't the past where the person didn't want to take a math test in school and they called in a bomb threat to the school or pulled the fire alarm. These threats have to be taken seriously now. And I think in Bloomington, obviously with the mall and all the events that we have here, this gives us an opportunity to provide the very best protection to people, our elected officials or other dignitaries who come into town to make sure that they are as safe as possible. It also provides us with the opportunity to fully investigate a lot of the threats that take place. And believe it or not, even as chief of police, people said they wanted to kill me. Being in government, people decide to serve. It shouldn't have to deal with this type of treatment. So with that, I'll take any questions you may have. But understand some of the units' capabilities I will not be able to discuss because of security data.
How big is the, go ahead. I don't need specific,
Yeah.
but what types of people are on this list that you would be protecting? Are these city councilors? Are these state people?
Yep.
Government?
Yep. So for us, any elected official that is in Bloomington, so like say we had judges, our council, obviously, any of our legislators, or if dignitaries or anybody else comes here that might need that level of security, we want to make sure that we're able to provide that for folks. In the city of Bloomington, yep. And even our citizens, some of those threats, they'll be able to investigate also.
So they would like partner with other groups around the state?
Yes. Yep.
So they could be helping out with, like, if there's some events in St. Paul, this group could be tasked with going to a different city to help out with that, or?
We would limit it to, so you asked, like, will we help other cities? Right now, we would pretty much reserve that to our federal partners, because obviously they helped with the training, and this allows us to work with them. So like, say president, vice president comes, our people would be able to work directly with those folks. Unit size, I'm not going to get specific numbers, but we'll just say between 10 and 20 people are bodies that are actually dedicated to doing the work.
Their current BPD officers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
What makes this unit different? So you have police officers, are they just too busy? Like, how will it affect your rank and file? Will you pull them away from duty, or how do they?
Yeah.
Will they get special time to go
Yeah.
to investigate one of these threats?
Yeah, so we have people assigned to different aspects of the police department. So the threats part would be handled, the investigative piece of that would be handled by people who are already in investigations. Now, when we need to pull people to do like the physical protection, depends on which unit they work in, but it's just like any other specialty assignment that we have. So like if you get a SWAT call out, you'd have to call in people for that. So
And then how's it funded? Did you have to pay for the training?
we pay for the training, right, as a city.
And you at the time of that shooting, that was when someone said we should get it. Who kind of came up with the idea?
I did. Yeah. It just, like I said, it just, for me, again, obviously when the assassination of our legislators took place, that was my birthday, right? And I'm sitting here helping get our folks deployed to go assist with that too. And it's just, we can't, and like I said, Mr. Kirk, you have to, and also the stuff that's happened to me personally too, you have to take this stuff seriously.
As we continue to see these threats across the country, do you see other departments, especially here in Minnesota, piggybacking off of you guys, and do you see other departments doing something similar to what you guys are doing?
I would hope so. And any department that wants to talk to us, we'll talk to them. But like the sophistication that we put together in this unit, no one else does. I mean, this is a whole approach. We wanted to make sure that, obviously providing the physical body security in an event is one thing, but there's so much more that goes into these to make sure that they're safe. So we're very fortunate here in Bloomington. We got a good city council, and they give us resources, and our citizens here are generous with their tax dollars. So we've been able to put together a very complex unit, which if someone wanted to model, hit us up.
What's crazy is like Booker is putting out here what people actually want to hear. So it makes me wonder, like, why isn't Minneapolis, like, St. Paul, other places like Rochester, Duluth, St. Cloud? Because we are in a time where, becoming a politician and you make decisions that I'll say that most of them, you got to make decisions that people aren't probably going to like, and that makes it me think: is it about the public? Is it about your constituents? Or is it about making their city better? And I think a city councilor or a mayor or even when it comes to our state senators and state representatives, they should be doing things that are good for the residents, for the constituents, for the taxpayers. But it seems like every time it comes down to some kind of corporation or some type of city entity, it's always the people, the taxpayers, that are getting screwed over. And I do like, to be honest, I don't think you can have either side say too much about it, because he's bringing up the Hoffmans, he's bringing up Melissa Hortman and her husband marking a dog, but then he's also bringing up, the assassinations attempts on Trump. He's bringing up Kirk, and even bringing up himself because he's had some threats. So it shouldn't be. Both sides of this, I think, would be happy about it and not. I don't know though. They'll maybe find something. They'll find something. I'm sure I will too. But the things that I'm hearing come from Booker makes me realize, or no, I shouldn't say it make me realize, but makes me feel good of knowing that if you live in Bloomington and you want to run for politics, just the political climate that we're in, and to know that they have a whole unit that protects elected officials and events, I think is really it should put the people at ease. And I will say this is, if you compared Booker and Brian O'Hara, before Brian O'Hara came to the city of Minneapolis, I had reached out to where he worked at in New Jersey, and I talked to some of the activists, and to understand of like what does make Brian O'Hara tick? What is, and I could see he was kind of a hands-on type of person, but that's not how I seen it when he came to the city of Minneapolis. It's because it wasn't about the people so much anymore. It was about, okay, Frey put me in here and I'm going to try to make a difference. But he got into the whole politics about it and not into the public safety thing about it. So that's where I feel like with Brian O'Hara, he fucked up. He got more into the politics than it should have just been about public safety, because politics has no business in public safety. No business, because nobody should be playing political games when it comes to people's protection.
Yes. Yep.
Isn't this something that should have been just kind of commonplace in police training? To me, executive protection, I would think that would be, that every department should have some expertise in that.
Yeah, so executive protection is very complex. It's not, I think, because a lot of people might think it's like, oh, well, everybody needs a bodyguard, right? But I think it's very complex in terms of the nature of their work. Like, you don't want them to be seen, right? They have to be able to, look at behavior analysis, right? So if you got a crowd of people here, who's the one or two people that don't look right, right? You have to be able to look all over to make sure there's no threats. But we've been fortunate enough here to be fully staffed, so we got the resources to dedicate to this. But other departments who may not be fully staffed, like you said, they may not be able to dedicate the resources to this. Like this training, we don't get in the police academy. We don't. It just simply doesn't happen, because most police officers in Minnesota and nationally won't have to provide this level of security. So in Minnesota right now, pretty much you have the governor that has his state patrol detail, the mayor of Minneapolis, and I think the mayor of St. Paul may have one person with them at this point. Yep.
So the way it works is it's kind of twofold. If city council member, judge or something can they request to have some additional security? But then you'll also have this crew helping out at different big events that happen in the city of Bloomington.
Yep. So we would evaluate requests. We're not here to be people's personal security detail. But let's just say, for example, person one gets a threat. We would investigate that threat. If the threat was determined to be credible, or while we're investigating that, we would put together a team that would provide them with protective services.
You mentioned threats you've received personally. Have you seen an increase in threats that folks have been facing here in Bloomington?
Yes. And I get, like I said earlier, there's nincompoops, buffoons, idiots in government. Everybody's smarter than you. Okay, that's fine, right? But there's also those people in society, right? And the people in these roles and our elected officials are put here by us in the citizenry, and they shouldn't have to deal with this. And if you disagree with people, find 50+1 to beat them in an election. That's the way America works. Threatening to say you want to kill people and go after people's families and dox them, it's not appropriate. And quite frankly, it really doesn't change people's position on the issues that you maybe want to advocate for.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And you can't predict how many threats and how often you're going to be called or you're going to call your officers into service. But looking back on incidents that you've seen in the past year or so, how often are these folks going to be called or called into duty? How frequent is this?
So if I was just to go, probably in the last 18 months, it's probably about 4 or 5 details we would have deployed them to.
Damn.
So you're hoping to be entirely proactive? Again, in Lisa and Hartman's situation, everybody was reacting after the fact. Everybody was
Right.
everybody, show up on time. Are you hoping to get out somehow magically and then be in front of that instead of being reactive?
Yeah, we're hoping to be proactive, but also be able to be set up to be as reactive as possible, right? Obviously, there's a proactive piece where you're monitoring threats, but one thing that was learned from there is to make sure you have a continuity of operations and people are communicating with each other. And I'm not going to get into the security details that we've put in place with our elected officials and whatnot, but we do have things in place now that will drastically increase a rapid response should something like that take place with one of those folks here in Bloomington.
And then do you have DPS and do you have Minneapolis chief on speed dial then in situations?
No, I don't, but we got methods to send them a message if they needed it. We get in touch with them. Right.
So we always talk about preventable measures, and it's always, which we find out it's always a little bit too late, right? But I do feel like before Bloomington has a significant problem when it comes to their elected officials, they're really trying to nip it in the bud. And even when it comes to with their events, because you see what goes on at the Mall of America. That's one of the biggest malls, and I think it is the biggest in America. And there's a lot of things that happen there. A lot of events, a lot of, it's a tourist attraction. You do get a lot of people that come there. And there's been bomb threats. There's been, shootings. So this type of unit, I actually do think will come in handy for the people. It at least, that's the one thing that I can say about Bloomington. They are really trying to protect and serve their constituents, their residents, and their taxpayers, because they do appreciate them. And I do get the feeling of, when Hodges brought this idea to the city council, they were 100% behind it. And I think the same thing about the taxpayers. I think they were behind it. So they didn't matter about the cost, because the pros of this situation outweigh the cons. But I do want to talk about this story. If people don't know, the other day, the director of MMIR, and that is the Missing and Murdered and Ingenuous. So I don't know. I'll look it up. But she was fired. And that just shows you the problems that we have in these services or these programs that are supposed to actually help people. And the people that are actually trying to do the help, they get rid of them. And that's how I look at this situation is they wanted to get rid of somebody who actually wanted to do the work, who actually wanted to make results. And any time that the city has one of those employees, something fucks up. Always something is disarrayed. They're telling us lies. And then when they actually do tell us the truth, we're like, it's the city's fault. And still to this day, you don't have Black leaders who stand up to Mayor Frey. You don't have Black leaders that stand up to the Minneapolis Police Department. Because I can tell you right now, they're on their knees sucking some dick. I'm not trying to be rude about it or nothing, right? It's just the straight up truth. You have people in Minneapolis who would rather suck dick than actually get change. And that to me is really, really weird, because how much more do we got to take it to seeing motherfuckers get raped? And I'm talking about literally. I'm not talking about hypothetically, not actually somebody getting raped. But I'm saying, like, how much more as taxpayers are we going to be put through? How much more trauma? How much more can we take? When is enough going to finally be enough? And that's what I keep on asking to the people of Minnesota. When is enough going to be enough? And even across the country, when is enough going to be enough? Because it's not just Minnesota. It's not just California. There's New York, Ohio, Florida, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi. I don't know all 50 states, but I can say them. But it's not just a Minnesota problem. It's a problem that's everywhere. And when are finally people going to stand up and get tired of this performative bullshit, or these little tokens that they try to pacify us with? Because when it comes to actually making a difference, nobody's around. These niggas run around here with their heads cut off.
From a top state director with the Department of Public Safety who was just fired less than a year after she took the job.
Guadalupe Lopez was director of the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives Office and its $750,000 budget. The office is the first of its kind in the country.
Well, Camaria Bray talked with Lopez, and she joins us with what she is saying tonight. Camaria.
Kevin and Lindsay, I spoke with Guadalupe Lopez, who says 1 minute she was being congratulated for a successful Day of Remembrance event, and the next she was fired. She says she wasn't set up for success in the 9 months she led the office, despite repeatedly asking for more support.
How are you feeling in this moment?
Happy, sad, and concerned a little bit.
For Guadalupe Lopez, those tears aren't just about losing a job.
I kind of knew it was coming.
But work, she says, is unfinished.
I tried my best here.
Towards a mission to bring justice to missing and murdered Indigenous relatives.
I felt unsupported for a very, very long time.
Lopez started in July, serving as the director of the Department of Public Safety's MMIR office.
They are never truly gone from our hearts.
The day after this remembrance event, she was given this notice, saying her job was ending.
And how do you interpret the timing of this termination?
They messed up. It was bad timing.
Lopez provided 5 Eyewitness News with a letter signed by DPS Commissioner Bob Jacobson that says she was unable to meet job expectations, citing a lack of progress in leadership and professional judgment despite training and coaching.
What does that mean to you?
What it means to me, it doesn't feel good. It means that I don't feel that I was set up for success. I don't feel like I was coached enough, or else I wouldn't have kept asking for support.
MMIR says the office now has 3 staff, a number Lopez says made it difficult to expand the work. She says she often felt silenced when they pushed for next steps. As someone who is also related to one of the missing,
I am blood related to Jojo Boswell.
She says this office matters deeply.
And I asked to strategize and dream with leadership, and it just kind of never happened in the 9 months that I was there, and so I hope that it happens for the next.
In a statement, DPS Commissioner Bob Jacobson said the department cannot comment on employment separations, but says DPS remains.
I have a big issue with that, because it's always like dirty ass shit is done, and they they use these state statutes or this bullshit excuses not to give people the real answer. And that's crazy to me because this is not the first time this has happened in Minnesota. It's over and over again. It's never the department's fault. It's always the individuals. How many times have we heard this? Even when way before 2026, I don't know how many black uh people they got rid of when it came to doing programs down there when it to try to lift black businesses, and instead of trying to help them, they demonized them. Didn't matter if it was Latrice Vitaw or didn't matter if it was Jacob Frey. We never, or even Robin Wansley. You know what I'm saying? So I really do feel like we have a problem in our politics that hasn't been answered, even when it comes to retaliation, when it comes to they talk about people are problems when they're just tired of them leaking the truth. I shouldn't even say leaking when they're talking the truth, when they want the truth out there. And because the state of Minnesota or the city of Minneapolis or St. Paul, the BCA, it doesn't matter what department I'm talking about, they don't ever want to see the truth. They don't want to see what's actually happening. And if people do not see the rising fuel costs right now, I don't know what the fuck you're looking at because this shit is getting crazy. We have gas here in Grand Meadow over $4, and I think it's $4.24 right now. But on the news last night, they were saying that this could potentially be even. We haven't even hit the peak yet. I know 2022 was really bad when it came to getting out of COVID. You had the Russia-Ukraine war, but it peaked right away. This one hasn't. We still haven't hit the peak. So this is going to be a long, long, long summer. Um, that's all I can say. If you're a traveler, if you're a driver, you really need to watch the gas prices because that is going to affect of how you move. It's going to affect you when you go to the grocery store. It's going to affect you when you order from DoorDash or you get a taxi from Uber. Because if those costs are going up, who do you think that cost is who's gonna be paying it? It's gonna be us. It's not gonna be Uber or Uber Eats or DoorDash or even, the big corporations. It's us. It's us who's gonna bail these people out. And it's sad is because when it's time to actually bail out the American residents, we're always last. It's gonna be a long, long, long year. It's gonna be a long summer just for the fact that um, we haven't even we haven't even peaked yet. We haven't even peaked. So watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out, because gas prices are gonna get higher. There's no doubt about that. Even and we'll be paying more. We'll be paying more with postage stamps, delivery fees. It always will go back to the consumer and not the corporations. Uh, I don't know which way it should be. I just know that here in America, we have really gotten away. Uh, it's that American dream is for scammers and people who are fraudulent, not for people who want to do the right thing. Because when it comes to right time to do the right thing, nobody ever does, and it's always they don't ever want to bite the hand that feeds them. But I do want to get into this. They did a sweep of the lakes a couple weeks ago, and they found some guns, and some of the guns went all the way back to 1927. And it just makes you think or even wonder of how many guns are actually in these waters. Because we already know throughout the years that even in the Mississippi, I think that is something that people need to go look at. Even when it came to the Stone Arch Bridge and how people would and I ain't never seen no guns thrown over or whatever, so I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I have. But I've seen people throw things in the Mississippi River. Just like I seen a knife, somebody stabbed somebody, and I did see a knife thrown in there one time. Uh, but it does make you really, really wonder of how many guns are in the lakes that have bodies on them, and they have bodies on them, but the gun was never found. And I think that is something that people need to take serious, and they need to. Uh, it's not a conspiracy theory; it's something that really, really did happen. So here is a story about firearms found at the bottom of BDE Maca Saka, whatever. I don't know how to say it. Yes. Yeah. Right. No. Mm. Right. Yeah. 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 That's interesting because Minneapolis does have a long history of organized crime. So seeing that isn't shouldn't bewilder most Minneapolis residents or even Minnesotan residents because it's all things that we know that we it is still a cool find. I didn't thought that is kind of cool or whatever, but shit, that's crazy. I'm gonna get up out of here though. It's Friday. Thank God. No, I'm just kidding. It's been a hell of a week. It's been a long one. Next week will be kind of weird because I do have some appointments. Next week is my birthday. So we'll be that's on Tuesday. So I don't know if I'll do an episode yet or not because I'm probably out with Ashley doing Amazon. So we can meet my mom in Rochester for lunch or whatever. But um, yeah, I hope people are paying attention. You know what I'm saying? I hope people are really, really paying attention and making sure that shit is. I actually wanted to show y'all something before I left. And making sure that we're making a difference. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I thought this was weird when I was looking through Twitter this morning, X, whatever you want to call it, about ghost shoes marked places where ICE detained people in the Twin Cities. And then even you went on to this, I seen this little thing on here, is that the Minneapolis Police Department is on pace to blow its budget by over $23 million this year, well beyond the extra overtime racked up during the federal immigration crackdown. So that already should show y'all we have serious, serious issues that somebody should want to have conversations about, talk about. Yeah, I just don't get it. This one I found kind of curious as well, right? The Minnesota DFL put out there they passed this landmark anti-fraud legislation, creating an independent office of the inspector general, and I, I'm going to call bullshit, right? Because Minnesota is only acting only after years of massive, well-documented fraud and repeated failures of oversight. But it arrives after the damage has already been done. And the timeline confirms the state waited until public outrage and national scrutiny forced action. And I'll say this again, they didn't do it because they wanted to willingly. They did it because the people pressured them. The people stayed on them to make a difference. So this whole bill was up last year to the House. They didn't pass it. They didn't even, I don't think they got a vote on it. And that was Lisa DeMuth. Again, I will say it is that a lot of Minnesota voters are being bamboozled. Doesn't matter if it's by Kendall, doesn't matter if it's by Lisa, by people not actually doing their homework and their research on these people actually show me that how uneducated and ignorant and blind following we have here in Minnesota. I think about how is Amy Klobuchar being boasted up and endorsed and all these things by the Democrats. And like, you don't know what she was doing when she was the prosecutor of Hennepin County. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I look at Zadam Muhammad, I look at Ilhan Omar, I look at Omar Fattah, and these are the people that are trying to lift her up. And I can understand it and I see it because you guys don't know our history. You don't know about the Black plight in North Minneapolis because you weren't here. You're not even born in this country. You know what I'm saying? So I can see why they don't care about what happened. Same thing with Jelani. That these niggas don't care about what happened to Marvin Haynes or how the Minneapolis Police Department and the prosecution office, especially in Hennepin County, railroaded so many Black and brown innocent young men. And it's all documented. These things that I talk about, you can find them. You can Google them up. You can look it up. I'm not talking about things that are a narrative. These are things that actually happened. It's even like how I said yesterday with the Cortez Rice thing, and I didn't really want to speak on it, but my soul made me. God says, I prayed. I really, really did pray. Should I say something? Because to be honest, you know what God told me? I can't even say God, because what the message that came was, if not us, then who? If not us, then who? Because have we seen over the years, they're afraid. They know what happened to Malcolm. They understand what happened to MLK, Fred Hampton, Medgar Evers, Emmett Till. They know they don't speak up. Are you fucking crazy? They know what happens when Black men speak up, when Black men buck the system, when they have a large following. So I understand the whole thing with Lisa DeMuth or Walter Hudson or even AK. They like to throw AK in that Black, but the nigga is African. No disrespect to him, but he's African. He's not Black. His mom is American white. His dad isn't. His dad got over here, I believe, everything that I can find, and the people who have talked to me in the Republican Party say your dad got over here in the 70s and he had a whole nother family in Africa, came over here on a student visa and married your mom. So did he fraudulently marry your mom? Like, this shit isn't crazy. These are actual, like, real shit. And it's crazy to me how Republicans, Democrats, anytime it comes to talking the truth, you don't hear shit. It's like a church mouse. I can say the things about Mary Franson. She was it's crazy. I can tell people don't like to read or they don't even. So I understand why Minnesota is so fucked up. When you have legislators who are sexual deviants, when you have people that have no ethics, don't have any morals, how can you expect them to do any better than the bad that they're already doing? So I will just say it like that. And Minnesota is so more about popularity contests than it is about actual legislation, actual ordinances, legislation. It's about if you like the person. It's not about what they can do for the community, because that's why I feel like we're really at. Because I see black people, this is the crazy part for me, right? This is the part I don't understand. And this is how I can tell niggas don't want to lead a DFL plantation, is that you would vote for a LaTanya Reeves just because she's black and not either Nago, or I think her name is Dolly Ali. Like, come on, man. Y'all, let's join with the black person. Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you motherfuckers right now. I don't want no nigga. Here's the thing, man. I'm not voting for a nigga because they're black. I'm not. That doesn't mean they have the same priorities as me. That doesn't mean they have the same morals or the same values. So I'm not. I don't give a, I want to see black people uplifted. I want to see black people uplifted. And I do actually believe there is more white people in Minnesota who would rather see black people not get handouts and want to show them how to do it self-sufficiently. Because the main thing that I've heard in Minneapolis the last 4 or 5 years about trying to change voters' minds is they didn't want to lose their Section 8, their food stamps. Well, the shit's being stolen. So they're lying to you about the Republicans just snatching the shit from you. And that's the whole crazy thing to me, is like Minnesota is built on narratives, not the truth, narratives. And that's what's crazy to me. And I feel like, how are we going to get to tomorrow, or even get to the future, and even compromise on legislation when there's still bad going on? It's like the whole thing with the OIG shit. I do believe it's a good idea, yes. But to me, it's a little bit too late. It's a little bit too late, because how do you correct the trifecta that you motherfuckers had and hoping that you get it in 2026? So I hope y'all have a great, 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 great weekend. It's supposed to be nice. Get out, enjoy the sun. I know I will. So with that being said, man, I'm going to see y'all later. I'm going to get up out of here. Here is Too Filthy Ricky, everybody. And I will see y'all next week, same time, same place.